Give back the $40,000 your son took or don't come in, Dad said, gripping the door. My sister added, my daughter saw him hanging around the safe. We all agreed. I smiled, dropped the bank records and her car lease on the table. 5 minutes later, her husband walked out, and my name is Kevin Hartley. I'm 34, a pathologist in the county morgue, the person who shows up when the questions get quiet and the facts have to speak. In my family, I'm the background guy. I fix things. I hold doors. I say it's fine when it isn't. If we were a photo, my sister Alyssa would be in perfect focus, smiling, and I'd be the blur behind her carrying the coats. I have a 13-year-old son, Eli. He's quiet like me. He likes chess and old computer parts. His hair never fully obeys. On school mornings, we split a stale muffin in the car, and he reminds me to breathe when my phone starts lighting up. Divorce gave me 50-50 custody and a permanent list of things I'm supposed to remember. Forms, sneakers, lunch cards, days. Work is clinical and specific. In the morgue, I label, measure, record. Everything has a chain of custody. I like that you can prove where something came from, who touched it, what happened next. There are no golden children in there. Just cause and effect. At home, facts slide. Alyssa shines. She's 2 years older, a marketing manager with shiny teeth, shiny SUV, shiny opinions. When we were kids, Mom framed her spelling bee ribbons and pushed my science fair medals into a drawer with batteries and old cords. That drawer still exists. Dad calls it the junk drawer. I learned to laugh when he said it. Like, I agreed the things I worked for were miscellaneous. I'm not bitter. At least that's what I told myself. I worked nights, paid down debts that weren't mine, took my turn, then took the turns my sister skipped. She called me Kevy when she wanted something like I was 6, and she was being cute. It always worked. Sunday dinner stayed a thing even after my marriage didn't. Mom did roast with carrots. Dad played referee with a beer. Alyssa showed up late and loud. I arrived with paper towels, salad, and the knowledge I would leave with someone's list. That Sunday, the air felt stiff as I walked up their driveway with Eli. The oak tree threw long shadows over the minivan. My stomach nodded for reasons I couldn't name. Eli nudged me. You okay? Yeah, I lied. Let's just smile. We stepped inside. Mom barely looked up. Alyssa stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, lips pressed, posture dialed to courtroom. Her husband, Brad, hovered like a personal bafe. Their daughter, Kendall, 9, swung her legs at the bar stool, watching all of us like TV. Dad didn't sit. He stood in the doorway to the living room, one hand on the frame like a bouncer. Return the $40,000 your son took or stay out, he said, holding the door. Eli sucked in a breath. I blinked. It didn't compute. I heard the words like a radio from another room. Alyssa added, my daughter saw him near the safe. We all agreed. I looked at Eli. He went pale. In my head, I grabbed for a clipboard and couldn't find one. No chain of custody, just an accusation thrown like a brick. Dad, I said slowly. What's safe? Mom wiped a clean spot on an already clean counter. Don't make this harder, Kevin. Kendall swung her legs faster. She didn't meet my eyes. Brad sniffed like he smelled something burning. Eli whispered, I didn't. Not here. I told him, my voice shaking. We stood in the doorway, half in, half out, like a test. The house smelled like roast and lemon cleaner and something cheap. Fear maybe, or the sick sweetness of someone's lie. Say you'll bring it back, Alyssa said, bright and firm, like closing a sale. Then we can eat. I didn't answer. 1,000 small memories started rising in my throat, heavy as sand. From the living room, Aunt Marie's voice drifted out. He always was a strange one. The first trigger wasn't the dollar amount. It was that line, flat, casual, like I'd been a problem for years, and everyone had just been waiting to say it out loud. The safe wasn't new. Dad kept one in the bedroom closet behind the flannels, a black box with a keypad and a key for just in case. It held passports, bonds, the title to the house. Mom's ring when she used too much lotion and claimed it might slip off. And cash always cash. Banks fail. Dad said cash doesn't. He loved telling the story of the time his bank put a hold on his paycheck. 14 days. He'd say like the number had personally insulted him. Never again. So he kept envelopes in the safe. He wrote dates on them. He showed Alyssa the inside like it was a museum. He never showed me. I learned to stand in the hall and not look like I was looking. Over the years, Money left the safe quietly for Alyssa's emergencies. The daycare messed up. Brad's job is in transition. The SUV tires were a surprise. Mom would say it was temporary, then lay out dessert. Dad would grumble so he wouldn't look soft. I'd drive home with leftovers and wonder how to cover my own rant. I picked up extra shifts. I said no to vacations. I said yes to I'll pay you back Friday, even when I knew Friday was a fairy tale. My ex called me predictable and safe, which sounded like a complaint. She left with a man who called himself a fixer. He fixed nothing. I fixed the custody schedule and Eli's trust in adults. Alyssa liked to call me frugal and laugh like I was a sitcom character who kept receipts in a jar. The truth was less cute. My checking account had a permanent bruise. I had one suit for court, 2 shirts for work, and a system of rods in my closet like a lab. Blue, gray, black. It wasn't an aesthetic. It was Triov. The humiliations were small and constant. Kev, can you Venmo me $60? Kev, can you pick up Kendall? We're swamped. Kev, can you talk to Dad? He's being stubborn about the roof. I said yes. Every yes made the next yes easier to demand. When Eli was 10, he asked why we didn't have a fun fund like Kendall's family. I told him the truth. We were building slowly. I could feel my face heat with the shame of being honest. He patted my arm. Okay, he said. We can still make pancakes. I watched my sister buy a new car with a bow on it. I watched Dad slip her an envelope and whisper, "Don't tell your mother." I watched Brad drink craft beer, talk about startups, and throw around words like burn rate. While burning through everyone's patience, he called me Doc. But like it was a joke, like I was a guy with a hobby. Kev, you're so lucky, Alyssa said once. You don't have to care what you wear. It sounded like a compliment, but felt like a quiet kind of erasure. When Kendall turned 9, Alyssa threw a party with a rented unicorn and a balloon arch scraping the ceiling. Eli and I stood by the cooler. Could we get pizza after? He asked. I checked my account and did the math. We could, I said. We would. I rested my hands on his shoulders and felt the bones. He was growing. Growth costs money. Growth is relentless. 2 months before that Sunday dinner, Alyssa called me crying. We're drowning, she said. Brad's equity won't vest until Q4. We made a bridge loan from Dad's safe, and he's being a jerk about it. I pressed the phone between my shoulder and cheek while scraping a tray in the morgue. There are calls you can't pause. Can you talk to him? You're good with him. I'm good at not yelling, I said. That's not the same. Please, she said, just smooth it. I'll square with you. I smoothed it. I sat with Dad on the porch while he talked about how his father would have thrown him out, how he wasn't raising beggars. I nodded, reminded him Alyssa was stressed. He fumed, then softened, and finally fished for the safe key like always. Just this once, he said, which meant not just this once. And now, on that Sunday, he stood with his hand on the door and told me to return the $40,000 my son supposedly took. The accusation landed like a slap. It made no sense. My son didn't enter rooms without permission. He didn't touch things that weren't his. He called my father sir, even when my father was wrong. They picked him because he was defenseless. Because he was mine. Because if I was the blur, my kid was the ghost behind it. Easy to blame when you don't want to face the truth. Where did you get 40 grand? I asked. Come on, Alyssa said. Because calm is the only card I've ever had. Don't play dumb, she snapped. Dad counted it last week. Today it's gone. Who has the key? I asked. We all do, she said, then froze and backpedaled. I mean, Dad keeps it, but we know where it is. That's not the point. Did you call the police? I asked. Mom made a face like I'd farted in church. This is family, right? Family means no police, no paperwork, no chain of custody, just consensus. Family means whatever we all agree on counts as evidence. Family means Kendall saying, I saw Eli near the closet, trumped Eli's quiet, I didn't do it. Because Kendall is the golden witness and Eli's just the boy who fixes old chargers and keeps to himself, that I looked at Eli. His mouth trembled, but he didn't cry. He just looked wounded in a way that would scab over wrong if I let it. Something inside me hardened, not anger exactly, but resolve. Like bones callousing around a break. Okay, I said. We're leaving. Dad's jaw ticked. You come back with the money. Alyssa smiled like she'd won. This doesn't have to be dramatic, Kev. As I turned, Aunt Marie's voice followed me out, sugar-coated and sharp. He was always different. I drove Eli home in silence. At a red light, he said, "Chess after dinner? Like normal might still be possible if we just asked for it softly enough." "Yes," I said. "But first, I'm going to do something." "What?" I gripped the wheel. "I'm going to collect the facts." The big scene wasn't a holiday. It was 2 nights later at Mom and Dad's because Alyssa texted a deadline like a debt collector. Wednesday, 7 p.m. "We need resolution." Kendall added a unicorn sticker because she's 9 and the world is stickers that I asked Eli if he wanted to come. He shook his head. "No, they don't see me, Dad. I'll mess up the picture." It hurt because it was true that I stopped by an office supply store and picked up a banker's box. Inside were bank statements, printed and highlighted. I'd pulled them in my kitchen with a cup of cold coffee and a hand that wouldn't stop shaking. I called my bank, Dad's credit union, the leasing company, and every customer service rep who only started caring when I said fraud. I gathered proofs, timelines, transfers. I even printed Alyssa's car lease. She'd sent me a photo for advice once. Forgetting advice leaves a trail. At 7:04 p.m., I walked in. Dad stood by the door like a bouncer. Mom hovered. Alyssa and Brad sat on the couch, distance between them like a crack in tile. Kendall worked a tablet in the corner. Aunt Marie had brought apple pie and judgment that I set the box on the coffee table. "Before we do anything," I said, "we're going to do this with evidence." Alyssa rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, Kevin." "Shoo," Dad said. "He likes paperwork when it looks official." I pulled out the first folder. Here's the transaction log from the Safe's bank bag. The last 3 withdrawals were July 2nd, August 19th, and September 30th. The cash counted at those times was logged by Dad and signed by. I looked at him. "You signed it." "I keep notes," he said defensively. "I'm not a caveman." "Good," I said. Because the total at the end of September, before the so-called theft, was $12,300. Not 40. Silence. Alyssa blinked first. Dad must have miscounted. "I didn't," he snapped. That I laid down the second folder. "Car lease for a 2024 RX 350, I said. Signed by Alyssa and Brad in June. Monthly payment, $912. Because on July 2nd, Alyssa withdrew $10,000 from Dad's safe, I said, showing the bank statement. Same amount deposited into her account. Then $5,000 on August 19th, $3,000 on September 30th. I laid out Venmo screenshots to the dealership. Captions like "car stuff, LOL. Mom looked small. Alyssa stood. "This is ridiculous." Brad grabbed his keys. "You people are insane," he said, storming out. Alyssa called after him, voice shaking. I stayed calm. "There's also the security camera." Dad frowned. "We don't have one." "You do," I said, showing the frame. Alyssa leaving the bedroom with an envelope. "That was for Mom's ring cleaning." She lied. I showed her text. "Can you spot me $200 for Kindle's art camp?" I looked at Dad. "Eli didn't take $40,000. You took it in pieces. When you realized it was gone, you blamed my son." Silence. "This isn't revenge," I said. "It's closure. You won't use Eli's name that way again. Next time money's missing, call the police." "Don't call me." Alyssa whispered, "I'm sorry." Not to me, to him. I packed the folders. "If you want contact, start with an apology to Eli and a written agreement about the safe." No one stopped me. The next day, texts came. "Breakfast. You're being dramatic. Alyssa is fragile." I ignored them. Eli asked, "Do you think they'll say sorry?" I said, "I don't know, but we're done waiting for permission." We built new routines, diner breakfasts, chess on the porch, quiet peace. Alyssa's messages swung between guilt and anger. Then silence, until the knock. Saturday, 4 p.m. Alyssa stood there, eyes red, holding muffins. "I messed up," she said. "I blamed Eli because I knew you'd fix it. Brad left. He says I make everything someone else's fault. He says I never learned to carry my weight, that I'm cruel." I let it sit. I didn't hug her. I held the moment steady. "Apologize to Eli," I said. "No ifs, no buts." She nodded. "Quick, I will. I already told Kendall we were wrong." She cried. I told her grown-ups mess up big sometimes. She asked if we're bad people. "You did a bad thing. Then show her how to fix it," I said. She turned to Eli, hands shaking. "I'm sorry, Eli. I lied about you. That was wrong. I will never do it again." He nodded. Not forgiveness exactly, more like a receipt. After she left, Dad's messages shifted tone. Shorter, Your sister came crying. You made a spectacle. I replied once. Boundaries aren't spectacles, they're rules. No answer. Life settled. We built routines, diner breakfasts, chess, small fixes. Anger bubbled sometimes, then I let it go. Closure, not revenge. Alyssa sent updates. Brad is gone. Selling the SUV. I didn't toss confetti. I said, hope you're okay. That was it. The real change was when I realized I hadn't thought about the safe all day. I slept. Weeks later, Mom came to the diner. I miss you. I miss Eli. Scared? Scared you won't make it easy. I'm making it honest, I said. She admitted, I am sorry. Tell Eli. Eli slid in. Was that okay? It was. We don't need everything. Just enough. We set our own routines. No revenge, no victory. Just lines and rules. My name is Kevin. I cut through noise at work and now at home. Moral: tell the truth. Respect boundaries. Bring your receipts. Closure, not revenge.